6 months ago, almost nobody outside the tennis world believed this conversation would ever happen. Today, it is impossible to avoid. One player left Wimbledon carrying the weight of disappointment as the world number one. Another walked away after the greatest tournament of her life, even without lifting the trophy. And somehow, by the end of that unforgettable week, the spotlight had shifted completely. Not because of a championship, not because of a title, but because something much bigger had quietly begun. The question now is no longer whether Alex Eala belongs among the elite. The real question is whether the rest of women's tennis is prepared for what comes next. Everything seemed to change within a matter of days. On one side of the draw stood the most dominant player in the world, expected to control another Grand Slam. On the other stood a 21-year-old from the Philippines carrying the hopes of an entire nation with almost nothing to lose. Very few expected their stories to collide. Yet by the end of Wimbledon, they were being compared everywhere. The timing could not have been more dramatic. While the tennis world was still processing one of the biggest surprises of the tournament, social media in the Philippines suddenly exploded. The Bank of the Philippine Islands posted just 2 simple words: rising higher. There were no lengthy congratulations, no elaborate campaign. Just those words beside a photograph of Alex Eala, now sitting at a career-high world ranking of 28. It looked simple on the surface, but anyone paying attention understood it was much more than a sponsor celebrating results. It felt like an entire country announcing that a new chapter had officially begun. What made that moment even more remarkable was everything happening around it. Only days earlier, the world number one had suffered a shocking straight sets defeat against Naomi Osaka. It wasn't simply another loss. It was her earliest straight sets exit at a Grand Slam in years. Reporters filled press conferences with questions searching for explanations. Fans debated whether the balance of power was beginning to shift. While those conversations continued, another story was quietly becoming impossible to ignore. Alex Eala had gone even deeper into the tournament. That fact alone changed the narrative. But what happened on center court is the reason people still cannot stop talking about Wimbledon. Standing across the net was the defending Wimbledon champion, one of the most accomplished players in the sport. Experience favored one side. History favored one side. Expectations favored one side. Yet none of those things mattered once the match began. Point after point, Alex refused to play like someone grateful just to be there. She attacked. She defended. She absorbed pressure without looking overwhelmed. Every rally seemed to chip away at the confidence of the defending champion while building something much larger inside the young Filipino star. When the final point landed, center court fell into that rare silence that only follows genuine disbelief. Alex Eala had defeated the reigning Wimbledon champion in straight sets. Not through luck. Not because her opponent was injured. Not because everything somehow went perfectly. She earned every point against one of the toughest competitors in women's tennis. For longtime Filipino tennis fans, it wasn't simply another upset. It was validation. For years they had insisted that Alex possessed something special. They defended her through losses. They believed during difficult stretches when outsiders questioned whether she could ever reach the highest level. Now the biggest stage in tennis had delivered the answer for them. But the story wasn't finished. If anything, it was only beginning. Just days later, Alex returned to the court with enormous expectations suddenly resting on her shoulders. Waiting across the net was Jasmine Paolini, another player enjoying an outstanding season. The match quickly turned into a battle of endurance. Alex grabbed the opening set, showing the same fearless tennis that had shocked the defending champion. Momentum appeared to be on her side. Fans started imagining another incredible victory. Then everything changed. Paolini slowly adjusted. She began extending rallies, forcing Alex into longer exchanges and making every service game more demanding than the last. The physical and emotional toll of the previous week started becoming visible. The next 2 sets slipped away. The dream run ended in the 4th round. For some athletes, that defeat would have become the headline. For Alex, it somehow became another reason people believed even more strongly in her future. Because when emotions were highest and disappointment was unavoidable, She chose a response very few expected. Instead of blaming fatigue, instead of pointing toward pressure, instead of searching for excuses, she spoke about gratitude. She said it would be the honor of her life to inspire others. Think about that for a moment. A 21-year-old who had just experienced the toughest loss of her career wasn't talking about rankings or missed opportunities. She was thinking about everyone watching back home. That single sentence revealed something statistics never can. Talent creates champions. Character creates icons. And what happened after Wimbledon proved that distinction mattered. Back in the Philippines, celebrations continued even though the tournament was over. The BPI message spread across social media at incredible speed. Fans shared it thousands of times. Young athletes reposted it. Parents showed it to their children. It became less about tennis results and more about possibility. The message wasn't speaking only to Alex. It was speaking to every young Filipino wondering whether someone from their country could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest players in the world. That emotional connection transformed an athletic achievement into something cultural. Suddenly, Alex wasn't simply climbing the rankings. She was changing expectations. And that shift may be the most important victory of all. But behind all the celebration, another storyline was quietly developing. One involving the players still holding the #1 ranking. Because history has shown that whenever a new challenger begins rising through women's tennis, reactions inside the locker room can become just as fascinating as the matches themselves. The comparison wasn't entirely fair. One player had already won multiple Grand Slam titles. The other was only beginning her journey among the elite. Yet fans couldn't stop comparing them because the momentum felt impossible to ignore. What nobody realized at first was that this conversation wasn't being driven only by social media excitement. Former professionals were starting to say the same thing. That was the moment everything became impossible to dismiss. Fans are emotional. They overreact. They dream. But former professionals usually don't. Their careers have taught them how difficult it is to survive at the highest level, which is why they rarely hand out praise unless they truly believe it. And suddenly, respected voices across the sport were pointing toward the same player. Former ATP World number 21 Steve Johnson made one of the boldest observations anyone had heard all season. Speaking on the Nothing Major podcast alongside fellow former professionals, he suggested that Alex Eala had become one of the biggest commercial attractions in women's tennis, even compared with some of the sport's biggest established stars. That wasn't a social media trend. That wasn't hometown optimism. That was someone who spent more than a decade competing against the world's best explaining where he believed the sport's attention was heading. The statement caught people off guard. Because commercial value doesn't suddenly appear overnight. It comes from something much deeper. People don't just watch Alex because she wins. They watch because every match feels like they're witnessing history unfold. Every tournament carries another first. Another barrier broken. Another milestone that once seemed impossible. And that creates something every sport desperately wants. Belief. Even respected tennis journalist Ben Rothenberg described Alex's Wimbledon breakthrough as one of the defining stories of the tournament. Around the tennis world, conversations were no longer focused only on who won Wimbledon. They had shifted toward who might define the future of the WTA. That distinction matters. Champions win tournaments. Future stars change conversations. Alex was beginning to do both. But perhaps the most remarkable part of this entire story wasn't happening inside stadiums. It was happening thousands of miles away. For decades, Southeast Asia had waited for someone capable of reaching the very top of women's singles tennis. Year after year, promising players appeared. Year after year, expectations faded. Breaking into the world's top 30 had remained out of reach. Now, that barrier had finally fallen. Alex Eala wasn't simply improving her ranking. She was creating history that had never existed before. That explains why companies, sponsors, and institutions inside the Philippines suddenly viewed her differently. She wasn't just another athlete representing a brand. She had become a symbol of what an entire generation could accomplish. The investment surrounding her wasn't focused only on the next tournament. It was focused on the next decade. And that changes everything. Because when a country fully believes in one athlete, opportunities multiply rapidly. More visibility, more sponsorships, more resources, more confidence, more young players inspired to follow the same path. Success begins creating more success. But the calendar isn't slowing down. If anything, the real examination is only beginning. The North American hardcourt season now waits. The Canadian Open, Cincinnati, then the US Open. 3 tournaments capable of reshaping the rankings once again. For the first time in her career, Alex will arrive at these events carrying expectations instead of anonymity. Opponents who once overlooked her will prepare differently. Coaches will spend hours studying her patterns. Every draw will suddenly become far more dangerous because nobody wants to face the hottest young player on tour early in a tournament. That's the hidden cost of success. The surprise factor disappears. Now comes the harder challenge. Proving Wimbledon wasn't a magical 2-week run. Proving this is the new normal. That may be the biggest test of Alex's career. Because climbing into the top 30 is extraordinary. Staying there is even harder. Every week brings another elite opponent. Every tournament demands consistency. Every match becomes another opportunity for critics to ask whether the breakthrough was real. And yet, if recent months have revealed anything, it's that Alex seems remarkably comfortable carrying pressure. Think back to Wimbledon. The defending champions stood across the net. Millions watched around the world. The biggest court in tennis. Most young players would have played cautiously. Alex attacked. That mindset cannot be taught. It's built over years of believing you belong before anyone else does. And perhaps that's why so many people inside tennis believe her ceiling remains much higher. Of course, none of this guarantees what happens next. Women's tennis changes quickly. Injuries happen. Momentum shifts. Confidence rises and falls. One incredible tournament doesn't automatically create a Grand Slam champion. There is still enormous work ahead. But projections that once sounded unrealistic are beginning to feel surprisingly reasonable. A top 20 ranking, deep runs at WTA 1000 events, serious US Open expectations. Those ideas no longer sound like dreams. They sound like possibilities. And then there's the comparison everyone keeps debating. Will Alex Eala actually rank above the current world number 1 within the next year? It's an enormous prediction. Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. Because rankings depend on hundreds of matches, countless variables, and sustained excellence over an entire season. But here's what cannot be ignored. A year ago, almost nobody would have even asked that question. Today, thousands of tennis fans are debating it seriously. That alone tells you how dramatically the landscape has changed. Momentum in sports is a fascinating thing. Sometimes it arrives quietly. Sometimes it explodes all at once. For Alex, it feels like both. One unforgettable victory. One historic ranking. One inspiring message. One country completely united behind its newest global star. The pieces are falling into place faster than anyone imagined. And perhaps the most powerful image from this entire journey isn't the winning shot against the defending Wimbledon champion. It isn't the career-high ranking. It isn't even the celebrations across the Philippines. It's what happened after the defeat, after the emotions settled, after the dream run ended. Alex stood in front of reporters with every reason to focus on disappointment. Instead, she chose hope. She spoke about inspiring others. Those weren't carefully crafted words for headlines. They reflected exactly who she has become. That's why people continue believing. Because greatness isn't measured only by victories. It's measured by what remains when the victories disappear. Right now, the tennis world is watching 2 different stories unfold. One established superstar searching for answers after an unexpected Grand Slam exit. Another rising star discovering just how high her potential might reach. Their paths may cross again sooner than anyone expects. If they do, the atmosphere will be completely different. This time, nobody will call Alex an underdog. Nobody will describe her as a surprise. She has already earned something much more valuable: respect. The next chapter now belongs to the hardcourt season. Every point will matter. Every ranking update will be analyzed. Every victory will fuel even bigger expectations. And by the time the lights shine over Flushing Meadows, one thing is certain. The world won't be asking who Alex Eala is anymore. They'll be asking how far she can go. And if her Wimbledon breakthrough was only the beginning, the biggest moment of her career may still be waiting just around the corner.